Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to my beauty industry enthusiasts, content creators, and brand visionaries. Get ready to step into a world where beauty meets business, where the creator economy blends seamlessly with strategy. I'm Sonia Elise, and this is Lip Service, the podcast. We're about to redefine the way that you think about the beauty industry. From the boardroom to the makeup room, we're leaving no stone unturned. Lip Service is your backstage pass to the beauty industry's best kept secrets. Now take out your notebook, fill up your emotional support water bottle, and swipe on your favorite lip gloss. Let's get into the episode. Welcome back to Lip Service, the podcast. We are here today with a dear friend, a past mentorship girly, and a longtime Lip Service member, Kailey. Welcome to the podcast, Kailey.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. So if you are not already following Kailey, she is at Occupation Beauty, and we will of course tag her in the comments. That's both on Instagram and TikTok. And what I love about Kailey that we're going to get into is that she is reviewing everything through the lens of an occupational therapist. And I think that's so different and creative and interesting way. So many people have a difficult time melting together their personal life, their professional life, and she's actively doing it. So I'm so excited to get to talk about it today.
Thanks. That was so sweet. I'm excited to talk too.
Great. So we always get started with a breakdown of what's on your face today, Kailey.
Okay, I honestly have listened to quite a few of these episodes, so I was prepared. So I'm wearing the Fenty concealer. I don't really wear a lot of like foundation and stuff, especially in the summertime. So we got Fenty concealer. I'm wearing a Neen cream blush that is just so good. If you haven't tried Neen, I need you to try their cream blushes.
Everybody talks about them. They're high on my list of like brands to try that I just like haven't gotten there yet, but that I know I'm going to love.
Yeah, no, for sure. And they're like silicone packaging. One is like kind of easy to open. And then two, they always like show them like dropping it in places because it's a little bit like drop resistant. Mm-hmm. Cream products naturally are, but then I actually dropped my eyeshadow down the stairs and that broke. So don't drop it down 2 flights of stairs, but just like a little knock off the table's usually fine. Okay, back to the makeup. I am also wearing Guy Beauty's eyeliner, the brown eyeliner, the gel liner. But I actually just like smudged it all over my lid. And then I put another Neen shadow, like a glittery shadow on top because I just didn't feel like doing my eyeliner today. Thank you. And then what else? We got Benefit brow wax on. So good. And my lips are Merit, the liner that they came out with over like winter, Christmas time. It's so good. I think it was limited edition and I'm like really sad about it. No. And then a Dibs Beauty. I know. It's the worst. I'm trying to only use it for like special occasions. And then Dibs Beauty, a gloss over that.
Wow.
And that's it.
She has the full breakdown. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then follow-up question. If you were doing Afterlife tomorrow, your journey on the world surface has ended. What product do you take with you?
Okay. So I am joining, a lot of people have said lip balm and I am on that train. I feel like that's the one thing, like I put it on before I go to bed. I put it on in the morning when I wake up. I put it on throughout the day. Like that is the one product that I will never be without. And I specifically thought about like, what brand of lip balm do I want to bring with me? And I was between the Lawless lip mask or the lip mask from Lawless or the Auric Beauty, the Plush Ritual Balm, because that one comes in a tint. So you could like have a little bit of a tinted moment, but still be very nourishing. Or the Summer Fridays. But I think overall, I'm going to go with the Auric Plush Ritual Balm just because I love the little tint and it's just so comfortable. Like I have it on my desk, I think. Like I have it all over the place and I got my mom to use it. I got my aunt to use it. I'm just like spreading it to everyone.
She's an influencer.
Yeah.
I love it.
She loves it too. So.
Oh, good. So good.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. So with that, let's get into the episode 5 questions today with Kailey from Occupation Beauty. So, Kailey, you have now been running Occupation Beauty for how long? How long have you been doing content creation?
Okay, so I've been doing Occupation Beauty, I think, since January 2023 is when I had this idea of doing accessible beauty. And then I kind of panicked and pivoted away from accessible beauty because I just felt like I was doing a lot of OT in life. And I switched to like conscious consumption, which is when I started working with you or like started joining lip service. And then I was like, that doesn't really feel like me. And so then I pivoted back in like really January of this past year is when I like really started like doing mentorship with you and hitting the ground running. So kind of like a year, but in this like Occupation Beauty, I know what I am. I know what I'm doing really since like January 2024.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that because it definitely shows
it's been
that
a long time.
You can always change your niche. You can always, pivot. It doesn't matter. And that was after a pretty short period of time. Some people pivot like 3 years later. So I'm glad you found your groove early on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us more. Why did you start creating content on this journey? Like what was the trigger that was like, I want to be here?
Okay. So to be honest, I was like the 2016 early days of YouTube girly, watching all the beauty gurus. When I entered college, I did start an Instagram called Kale Tales, that I just did like little like makeup things for fun. Yeah. But that was definitely like a hobby, did not take it seriously. And then I started on this journey because when I became an OT about 5 years ago, I had one of my first clients was an adult and she had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and she wanted to be an esthetician, but she had like a really hard time even touching towels was painful for her, like had a hard time manipulating objects, had a hard time with like even just body awareness. And when she was in the flares, and that makes it really hard to be an esthetician when you're constantly having to touch towels and massage people and like do all these different things, right? And so in our journey, when she was working with me, we were trying to find adaptive equipment or try to find like makeup, even like jewelry clasps and things to help her live more independently. And there was like nothing in the market that we could find. And even then just like looking at my own makeup routine and working with a lot of people who have dexterity, fine motor challenges, I was like, oh my, this is so tricky. So from there, I was like, wow, this is really kind of a breakdown, a gap in the market, and not even the market, just in like OT in general, because looking for beauty routines, I feel like a lot of times when we are working with clients, we are like right post injury or right with a newly acquired disability. And so a lot of times you're focusing on these larger activities of daily living, like can you brush your teeth? Can you go to the bathroom by yourself? Can you shower by yourself? Here's how to get dressed without like breaking your precautions or like falling over, things of that nature. And so makeup that feels sometimes like more like vain or like not like a necessity kind of gets pushed to the wayside. So I noticed this and was like, okay, well, we need to do something about this. And I, again, have that background of YouTube and loving beauty and all these things. And I was like, wow, like I can meld these together and make a real difference in the beauty industry and then also just like in individuals' lives. And so that's kind of how this blossomed into Occupation Beauty, because I'm an occupational therapist, is like my occupation or like what's important to me is beauty is kind of the idea behind it.
I love it. Yeah. For anybody who is listening who doesn't know, when Kailey references OT, it's an occupational therapist. And you are clearly yeah, of course, you're a licensed practicing occupational therapist that requires postgrad, or what's like the educational journey?
Yeah, so it requires at minimum a master's degree. Now you
Mm-hmm.
can get a doctorate. So I could go back for like my postmaster's doctorate, but at this point, if you're
Mm-hmm.
getting a doctorate, it's really for that research base. As far as like working in clinical settings, having a master or a doctorate is fine, but you do need that kind of secondary education, that
Yeah.
post-secondary piece. Yeah. We also have to pass a certification exam. So once you pass grad school, you're an OT, or an MOT. I'm a master of OT, and then to get my R, so an MOT OT registered, I have to pass an exam, and then you get licensed for state that you want to work in.
A complicated journey. Well, how did it
letters?
So true. How did it feel to have that sort of like realization that this hobby that you had, beauty, makeup, YouTube tutorials, could actually melt well with your day-to-day, career journey and like your inner passion of helping people through recovery or disability or challenge?
It was really scary. And I felt like for a long time, I was afraid to show up online, like as an occupational therapist, just because I feel like when we learn so much in school that like it depends, like the answer to everything, the joke is it depends. And so like coming online where everything is so black and white and it's really hard to find nuance in conversation, it was scary to be like, okay, I'm going to come on and present myself as this like person who knows what I'm talking about when I'm also constantly taking continuing education. And like, you can never feel like you really like are like a perfectionist because there is no perfection. A master. Yeah. I was like, I feel like I like what I do. I feel like I know what I do. I've been like working hard to be good at what I do, but there's always something else, right? And there's always that next step that you can do. And I feel like that people can feel like that across niches. And so that when I kind of noticed like, oh my gosh, I can blend this all together, but that's really scary to show up online and open for like judgment of like, it felt almost more real where I was like, this is what I do in my real day. This is how I make money. And if I show up online like this, are people going to be like, wow, you're really bad at your job? And so it just felt like a lot of pressure. But I remember in one of our like first mentorship meetings, you were like, Kailey, get over yourself. You have a master's degree. Like you have this knowledge. Why don't you use it? And I was like, yeah, okay, you're right. And I think too, when you're in it, like what we know and like our experience, that's not someone else's experience, right? So when I'm sharing, like I just made a video that was like, instead of pulling off a cap, push sideways. And like I had someone comment and be like, well, I already knew how to do that. But then I had another person comment and be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. So I think that just really proves that like what feels quote unquote second nature to someone can be really helpful and beneficial to someone else. And so just always like recognizing that I think has really helped helped my content. So long-winded answer, short answer, it was really, really scary, but I'm really glad I did it.
Good. Well, I'm really glad that you said that because I think it's something that applies to actually lots of people, even if you have a short background in something. So I have a lot of people who I've had contact with through lip service who are previously makeup artists, or they were trained at a MAC counter or this or that. They have some form of training. And even though they keep up with it and they keep, learning more and, furthering their career, if they're not practicing anymore, or they feel like, oh, well, I'm not like a master makeup artist, I'm not a head esthetician, they always like devalue the knowledge that they have. And the reality is that every career, like even myself as a marketer, people are not always going to agree with what I have to say or my strategies or whatever else. And it's same with everything. So there's no stopping yourself. There are always going to be people who find your advice and your information helpful and they've never heard that. And then there's other people who are going to be like, well, that's not how my OT told me to do it. And we're like, okay, bye. No one cares.
Yeah. And I think just like being really like it takes a lot of inner work again to show up online, to be like, no, like I'm confident in my skills. I graduated, like I did the thing, right? And I continue to learn and grow. And so this is evidence-based, baby. Like whether or not you agree with me, that's what we're going with. Yeah. So it is definitely a learning curve though, when you get those first people being like, wrong, or did you even think about this? And it's like, okay. But then you just kind of take a step back and you're like, you know what? I'm going to go look at, I sometimes get really, really, really nice messages from people being like, thank you so much for what you're doing. Like, one, I never recognized this, or two, like I have X, Y, and Z disability and like, this is really helpful. I screenshot those so that when I get the people being like, rah, like we don't like you, you're the worst, I'll go look at the screenshots and kind of like remove myself and be like, okay, I'm not your cup of tea, and that's okay, but we're good. Yeah. We're building a community of people who get my bit, right, and who get who I am. Yeah,
exactly. And this goes for everybody. So everybody should have that folder of like, okay, feel good moments, things that they can lean on, because there's always going to be somebody who doesn't get it or isn't aligned, and that's fine. They're just not for you. Got to keep moving on if you want to stay online. Trust me. Okay. So next question is, what's one investment that you made that's helping you show up online more effectively?
Can I say mentorship with you?
You can say it. We'll just say,
I promise.
Not an ad. I did not ask her to say this.
Not an ad. She did not. This was really, again, at the beginning of this year. I don't come from that marketing background. I had been chronically online for years, but there is such a strategy to it, and such like a way to, where do you look when you're looking at the camera? Like how do you do a hook? How do you edit without doing the millennial pause? Like all these different things. Even how do you reach out to brands? How do you just like come up with video ideas and continue? And I feel like mentorship with you is who I invested in, but we'll go broad, invest in a mentor, because they have done similar things to you, and they're able to kind of look at your content from an outsider perspective. So when you're feeling really stuck, like I said, I was really stuck in going into this occupational therapy niche and this beauty niche, and you were able to kind of shake me and be like, hey, like, girl, it's fine. And so I think doing that and continuously meeting with you really helped push me to make my content better, to make me more consistent with my content, to also find ways to make my content easier and do like lazy girl content. So really, I think investing in a mentor, in not even necessarily like, I don't need to invest in an OT mentor to show up online, but a mentor who kind of vibes with you and you can lean on and ask and you feel really supported by. And just little plug, I did feel that with you, and I would love to continue mentorship at some point. Like this, I feel like it's like you do it and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go on my own. And then you're like, okay, I'm ready for another push. And you like sign up again. But yeah, that was definitely a huge improvement in my content, and so worthy of the investment.
Amazing. Well, I'm so glad that you feel that way. But I do think, like I say this all the time, whether people invest their money with me or elsewhere, if mentorship is out of budget or someone who's a coach is out of budget, even just like working your way up, profile audits, smaller courses, learning how to edit, investing in like a little bit nicer editing, like the pro software, small investments that you can make are always so important. People who aren't growing, who've never invested in themselves, like I see that as an issue. And I don't think that it needs to be thousands of dollars, but you have to keep growing. It's the same professionally. You'll stay stagnant if you're not investing in yourself somehow.
Yeah. And I think even like Coursera, which does like month by month subscriptions, they have some really cool classes on like marketing and social media. They also sometimes have like free trials. So you could like just sign up and be like, all right, we're gonna get a bunch of things done in this 30 days. I also really like joining like the free communities like Lip Service. or other kind of communities on Geneva and whatnot of content creators who are in a similar space than you. Because again, that's a place that's free to really kind of learn and grow and feed off of other creators who are a lot of times having the same questions as you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also really helpful.
Yeah, creator support and community, I think, is so underrated. Like, people do not understand how valuable it is to be able to text or chat or email or DM somebody who is doing something like-minded to you. Like, it's just like therapy. The like idea of even saying what you're going through out loud is enough. And for someone to be able to reflect that and say, like, yes, valid, it's happening to me too, is like, it'll help you so much. So I highly recommend anyone listening either join Lip Service, which is of course absolutely free on Geneva, or find a group or a friend or a buddy that you can DM that like gets it. They have to be in the content creation world 100%.
Yeah. And I will say, like, my favorite thing from that is I had a video go like semi-viral, and I forgot to say, like, I'm an occupational therapist. Like, this is accessibility. And people were like, why are you so lazy? Like, boo, hater. And that was the first time that I had gotten a lot of hate. And I was like, oh, like, this video is being misunderstood. Like, this is intense for the first time. And so I was able to kind of go into these communities and say, like, hey guys, this is what's happening. Does anyone have any like just ideas? Or even creators would just be like supportive and be like, girl, I've been there. Like, here's what I did to help me move through it. Or like, here's when when you have to turn the comments off. Like, there's no quick and dry. But that was a really nice way to connect with people who got it. Cause then I talked to my husband and he was like, just don't look at it. And I was like, well, but that's really hard to do. Yeah, so being able to kind of get support from people, who understand or maybe have also experienced that was really, really helpful.
Okay, so then question 3, what's one thing you wish people knew about being an emerging creator?
You have to be okay with being cringy. Like, I feel like that is and it's not even really cringy, right? But I feel like emerging creators, this is more what I wish like people who you know in real life would be like, you have to go through this part where people aren't seeing your content, even if it feels like it's not cringy, but it feels cringy because you're not getting the views, right? And you have to break through that, and you have to just like be consistent. I think is a really important thing to just like recognize and be okay with. Because it is hard to post a video and get like 5 views or like 2 likes and be like, oh, and that doesn't mean that it was a bad video per se. It just means that you're still growing and you're still learning on how to best kind of hit the marks, right? And hit the freaking algorithm and all that stuff. But I think that is definitely something that I would like just say to emerging creators as an emerging creator. Like, it's okay to feel weird and feel cringy, especially I think on stories. That's a part for me where like showing my daily life and being like, let's make coffee together and like all these things is fun and it's silly and it's silly. And people in your real quote unquote real life might see it and be like, why are you showing me this? And you have to like just people who are now like big creators, I feel like just remembering that we all start from cringe, man. And being supportive of that, I think is really helpful.
So true. I think like if
does that
you can
answer
just
the
redefine,
question?
Yeah, it does. I think if you could just redefine what is cringy, like, you can decide for yourself. You don't have to use everybody else's decisions. And the second that you decide that sharing coffee isn't cringy, it's valuable, or that sharing coffee actually helps people become more invested in you. Like, I think that sharing coffee actually builds some sort of sense of like trust or community. It's like, oh, they do coffee, I do coffee. They do these normal things, I do these normal things. What to me more cringe is acting like you don't do any of those things. I don't clean. I don't make coffee. Somebody delivers it. I don't like, that's not true. That's not a life. So showing those everyday things is like what connects the community to you. It's not cringy whatsoever, but I agree. It's definitely a mental game. It's a mental game at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny, right? Like it's silly to be like, here's my cat walking. I'm walking her outside. We're here again. And like sometimes I tell stories about students who, cause I work in a public school, and like, I'll do like quick snippets and I'll have my coworkers who follow me be like, hey, is this about X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, no, you didn't see that. But I think just really being like having fun with that, because again, that judgment comes from yourself, right? Like they're all excited for you, and for the ones who aren't, like, screw it. You don't need them.
Exactly.
And so just kind of changing that mindset, like you said, like it's only cringy if you say it is. And I think leaning into it is also a really fun, like I noticed a big change in my content creation when I stopped being like, oh, and I make content sometimes. I don't really know. Like when you started saying like, yeah, I'm an OT and I'm a beauty brand accessibility consultant and I make videos online and it's awesome and it's really cool. And let me show you it. People respond in kind and they're like, oh, wow. Like, yeah, that's really cool. Versus if you do that first kind of like, I kind of do this, then people are like, oh, okay. So just really being confident with who you are and that you have a important message to say, I think for emerging creators is another really important thing to remember and to note that like you do have something to say, even if you're still growing. Something important to say.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Okay. Next, question 4. What's one of your goals this year? We're 6 months into 2024. What are you excited about trying, or what are you reaching towards for the last 6 months of the year?
Okay. So at the beginning of the year, one of my big goals was to actually get paid for content creation. And that has already happened. Woohoo! So that was really, really exciting in like the first half of the year. I think in the second half, I really want to focus on building up that community that I have and really connecting and finding other avenues to share and build a more accessible beauty industry. Like I really think with my content, I want to branch or become, I don't exactly know what I want to do yet via like podcast, newsletter, or even just like longer form content. But I do really want to find ways to expand past the just little snippet of social media, to build a stronger community and to really start like impacting like communities and lives and things of that nature. Another thing I would love to do, I have so many flippin' ideas, is I don't know if this is like a 6-month thing, but I really long-term would love to pair with a makeup artist, or would either do it myself or pair with a makeup artist and run like inclusive design makeup courses or like makeup classes. I have a friend who works closely with Special Olympics in Maryland where I live. And so we're kind of playing around with potentially doing some like fun classes with the adults she works with. And just like to help people like, one, learn how to do their makeup. And then 2, like say, yeah, this product's going to be tricky this way. Let's try it this way. And I think that is just really exciting and kind of a way to expand past the like virtual piece. But that might not be within the next 6 months, but that is a long-term goal.
I really love that. And what's so funny is that immediately when you said that, Carol came to mind, and they were an episode a few ago who is a professional makeup artist. And they talked about chronic pain and how they've lived with chronic pain. They had an injury, lots of things around chronic pain and being a makeup artist. And I told them about you. And I was like, you should really connect with my friend Kailey. And I told them the whole idea. Now that you're saying this, I immediately was like, oh, she should connect with Carol. All right. So clearly it needs to go down. I need to make an intro because you guys would be perfect.
Yeah. We're for sure going to make that happen. And I have one more thing that I have too many things. My last thing, sorry.
No such thing. No such thing.
Not sorry. I'm not sorry. I have lots of thoughts and lots of things to say. I would love to start working more and more with that beauty brand accessibility consulting. Right now, I'm very like trying to build this up, but I really think making systemic change in the beauty industry starts with kind of working with production companies or packaging companies, production design teams. And so I would really love to start over these next 6 months making those connections and finding those companies, and really start working with them so that we can build accessible, universally designed packaging, just like for easy consumption and use.
I agree. It definitely starts at the packaging and product development area, which I think a lot of people don't realize how far removed that is from sometimes from brand founders. They normally hire somebody to consult in that role to help them develop those types of niche items, what type of packaging, and they might have certain things in mind, but most of the time it's the consultant that they're working with is not thinking of things through a lens that is accessible. Sometimes if the founder specifically asks for it, it would be, but a lot of times we're looking at eco-friendly packaging, reusable packaging, and packaging that perhaps can be multi-use. So one packaging element that you could do for a blush, an eyeshadow. So then as they develop a bigger line, it's easier. So I love that. And I do really hope that for you, because I agree. A team that is in packaging and development that has someone like you on their team or as someone that they can call is more likely going to recommend and think about things in that light.
Yeah. And it is something that like, if you're not exposed to it, you're not going to think about it. And so being able to be that voice, being like, hey, like, what about this? Or like, hey, let's think about it this way is just, I mean, diversity drives progress, right? Like consistently. So having different voices at the table is always really important.
For sure. Okay. Number 5, who are some creators you really look up to and why?
Okay. I'm really bad at remembering names. So I actually knew you were going to ask this question just from past episodes. Yeah. So I wrote them down. First, I really love Radiantly Golden. She is a disabled plus size content creator. She makes a lot of content about like accessibility, a lot of like Disney content, which I grew up in Florida. So I love a good Disney content. But I feel like she just really nicely melds like accessibility and also just like aesthetic. And I love her content as just like an aesthetic content piece, but then it's also got that educational piece that is really, really cool. And she also has this very cute service dog that is adorable and lovely. The next person is S. Andromeda. They are a makeup artist. I believe they have a chronic illness. Not 100% sure, but they are really cool makeup, like a little bit more alternative, not something I would necessarily ever do myself because I'm definitely more like your classic, you know. But I always just look at their makeup and I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. I wouldn't even have thought of that color combo. And then I really love April Lockhart. She is a creator with a limb difference. Yes, she is like her style is so cool. She posted this outfit the other day and the shoes were like these little, I don't want to call them pumps, but they were like little pumps, but they were like floral and like green. And I just stared at them for way too long. But I really like her content too. Like I feel like her outfits are just, again, I really like following fashion girlies because I feel like it's a little bit different than my niche, but it still is very like inspirational or like gives me a lot of inspiration in these like beautiful designs. And they're just like so fun. I wish I could be more fashiony. Yeah. So those 3 I think are really like who I see on my feed quite a bit. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. And then bonus questions. What brand, if you could like wave your magic wand to, 2 questions, A and B. If you could wave your magic wand and 1, work with a brand that you think is already like quote unquote doing it right in accessibility, who would that brand be that you would come to the table and be like, Kailey, you have to do a collab with us? And then 2, who is a brand that you love, but you're like, oh my God, the accessibility on this packaging is shit. How can I help you fix it?
Okay. For A, I feel like Rare Beauty is the obvious choice. And that is right now the choice that like comes to mind just because they did that whole accessibility initiative. They worked with the Casa Colina Research Institute. I feel like they are really actively trying to make accessible packaging, which would be just like a dream collaboration with them because I do think that they have this accessibility mindedness as like a huge brand. I also would love to do a collab with Guide Beauty. I feel like that's the brand that when people ask about accessible beauty, that's like what everyone thinks of. And their guide liner or guide eyeliner tool, I just call it guide liner. I don't know why, but that tool is amazing and makes eyeliner so easy. And then I'm just going to add a third one for funsies. I think Fenty is not necessarily doing like, I don't think they are actively trying to make inclusive packaging, but I think a lot of their packaging has natural edges and pieces that make it naturally accessible. So I would love to do a collab with them and really highlight like what about these designs, like their new blush packaging with the inverted outside, like how to open the compact, that makes it so much easier versus the old ones that were horrible. So I would love to do a collab with that. And then one brand that I think I would love to just like come in and help them is Merit Beauty, because I love their messaging of like simple, very simple 5-minute makeup, like easy to do. And I would also love to be like easy to do and easy to hold, like something where like, let's just add a few design element changes here that make your packaging easier, because a lot of it's even tricky for like me as an able-bodied person without any like physical disability. I'm like, what is happening? So them, and then also Patrick Ta's blush, because I really want Patrick Ta's new highlighters that's coming out, but that packaging is so hard for me to open. And some people say it's really easy because it's like bigger, but I find it so flush and glossy that like getting a good grip on it and finding the right area to kind of push to put that pressure on is really challenging. So those two, I'd be like, let me help you, friends. I'm available.
I love that. And this is why I love your content, is because when I'm listening to you describe like the Patrick Ta, I don't own any Patrick Ta, not for any specific reason, just hasn't made it into my collection. But when I look at that, I don't necessarily think anything either way. I just think like, okay, this is a thing that we open. But when you describe like it being super slick and like a little bit difficult to like grip that pop open, like that completely makes sense to me, which is why I think your content is so great to follow. Just as like a beauty enthusiast, you don't even have to have any sort of issues with grip opening or disabilities or anything else to find your content fascinating, because it's just like a new way of looking at things to better understand like what another person might be experiencing that you're not. So yeah, I love it.
Thanks. And yeah, I think too, like not to be morbid, but disability is like the one minority group that anyone can join at any time, right? Even if you have a disability for just a little bit, like if you break an arm or if you have a stroke, or like these things can happen, or if you are getting older and you develop arthritis, like I have the markers for psoriatic arthritis, like disability is going to touch everyone's lives at some point, whether it's with them or with someone else. Like that's just kind of how it works. So why wouldn't we want to, one, learn as we can and kind of throughout life to look through things in a little bit more of an accessibility lens? And then two, why wouldn't we want to change design and things to make the world a more accessible place? And I think over time, that's what we're doing. But it's crazy to think about that even the American with Disabilities Act was like put into law in 1990 or passed in 1990. So like we have come so far in such a short amount of time, but it's never going to be enough, right? Like there's always going to be something else you can do. And so I think by watching my content or even just kind of looking up disability rights and like looking up accessibility features is going to help just generally create a more welcoming and inclusive world.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I think that is the perfect way to end this interview. Kailey's little nutshell elevator pitch. I love it. Is there anything else that you want people to know about being a content creator, or any advice that you would give future content creators, people who are growing right now?
I think my advice is just keep showing up. Like, you just got to keep showing up. Even if you make content that you think this is garbage, post it. You never know. And there's no time. Like, internet's not linear. Like, the points are made up and it doesn't matter, right? Like, just post it, have fun with it. Because when you start to have fun with it, it's easier for you to continue creating content. And then it's easier for people to connect with you and really kind of see you. And want to hang out and come into your sphere. So that would be consistent and be silly and fun with it.
I love that. Thank you so much, Kailey. Thank you for your time. And we will link everybody that she mentioned and the brands that she mentioned in the show notes. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the Lip Service Creator Hotline, answering all of your questions. Today, I'm actually answering a very generalized question. I get this all the time, and it's also one of my top performing videos on TikTok that continues to get comments, continues to get questions over and over again, even though I recorded it months ago. And it's about Spark ads. With the launch of TikTok Shop, there are so many creators who have never had brand deals before, who have never worked as full-time creators, who are essentially getting taken advantage of by brands who are asking them to use their Spark codes without any sort of additional context or information. So I continue to try to show up to educate people around Spark ads on TikTok, because I think it is one of the biggest places where creators need help, no matter your size. If you have access to creating content on TikTok, you can be making Spark ads deals. And especially with TikTok Shop, more and more brands are finding videos that they really like, that don't even have to be going viral, that are linking to their TikTok Shop and asking those creators for their Spark ads codes. And I am finding so many creators commenting on my videos about Spark ads saying, oh no, I already gave away the code for 90 days, for 365 days, and I did not broker a deal with the brand. And that makes my little heart break. So let's talk a little bit about Spark ads today. If you are very, very new to TikTok, let's just back up and talk about what is a Spark ad. A Spark ad is a type of advertisement that brands have access to, where you as a content creator can post a video, and after it is posted and live, you can go into the back end of that video and create an advertising code. It's like a very long, crazy number and characters code that you can give to a brand. And when you generate that code, it asks you, how long would you like people to have access to this code? You can select 30 days, 90 days, and 365, I believe, are the options. There's no reason why you should be giving anybody 365, FYI, unless they're paying you a huge sum. 30 days or 90 days should be plenty. But when you give a brand this code, they're able to put it into their back end of TikTok ads. And essentially what they're able to do is, while they put money into advertising, that money goes directly behind your content, your image, your account, and that is serviced to people as an ad instead of organic content. If you've watched any amount of content on TikTok, I'm sure you've seen an ad like this. It looks like it's being serviced to you from a creator's account, but it's actually getting pushed to you on purpose through paid ads. So that is what a Spark ad is specifically. Now, what's very interesting is that with TikTok Shop, a lot more brands want this type of ad usage. They want the Spark ad code because the content that that code is linked to is already syncing back to their TikTok Shop, which means immediate ROI on the TikTok Shop. So these are a few things you need to be thinking about if you get a DM or an email from a company asking you for that Spark ads code. They might call it
heating your content up. They might say it's for more exposure for you. There's lots of ways that they can be wording it, but if they ask for that code, that is the red flag to you that it's time to talk about the details. So first and foremost, you need to be asking how long they would like this for. I highly recommend you stick to the 30 or 60-day mark. If they want 365 and will not budge, make sure to price accordingly, because a year of usage is a very long time for your face to be out there connected to a brand as ad content. 90 days is normally more than enough time. And I always tell a brand, if they've asked me for this, I will give you 90 days. And if after 90 days are up, you'd still like it, I'm happy to give you another 90 days. You can reissue the code as many times as you want when the time limit is up. So that's first and foremost. How long will they be using this? Secondary is, what is the compensation involved? So no matter your following, whether you have 1,000 followers or 100,000 followers or 500,000 followers or more, if a brand wants to use your content as a Spark ad, there needs to be some form of compensation. It can happen in many different ways. So like I said, if your content is linked to TikTok Shop, one form of compensation might be an increased commission rate. There's typically a flat commission rate on TikTok Shop already for every brand. Sometimes it's 8, 10, 12, 20, all the way up to 20% I've seen, sometimes even higher. And that percentage can always be increased though. So if you know that the TikTok Shop post that you created that this brand would like to use as a Spark ad is at 8%, I would come back asking for anywhere between 12, 15, and even 20% in exchange for the rights to be using your content. A lot of people ask, how can I make sure that they're using my content correctly, that they are not disconnecting my commission, etc.? I think it's very rare that brands do disconnect, although I have heard the worst. I would say protect yourself by making sure that you get a written contract that's signed with your negotiating terms. You don't just do this via DMs or via email without an additional signed contract with the terms. That's the best legal protection I think that you can have when you're brokering a deal like this. Next up is, of course, an upfront fee. Now, you could be offering a brand anywhere from $100 a month, $300 a month, $500 a month. That's completely up to you and where you are on your content creator journey. But I think a flat fee is always a nice option in terms of asking for money upfront as a guarantee instead of the commission. So if you are someone who did not sync a post to TikTok Shop, but a brand would still like to use your content in Spark ads, a flat fee per month of usage, per 30 days of usage is completely fine. For example, if you decided that you would like to charge $200 per 30 days, and the brand would like to use it for 90 days, that would be $600 flat upfront for the usage of your content in Spark Ads. The very last option you have here, of course, is to go ahead and combine the two. So perhaps the brand does not have a $600 budget for the content. You could give them a upfront fee. So let's say you definitely want to make a flat fee of $300, which is 50% off, plus a commission through TikTok Shop. So plus a commission on anything sold. So you could ask them to make sure that you get the higher commission rate. You could keep the current commission rate, but you definitely want to make that fee upfront. These are 3 different opportunities you have to negotiate with brands asking you for Spark ad deals. So don't not be shy. When somebody asks you for that Spark code, make sure that you are getting some form of compensation through these 3 channels. Besides that, pay very close attention to what is happening on the back end of your content. Like I just heard from some creators, when people boost your content, it could be seen by groups of people that you don't typically reach out to, right? If you are a female on the internet, your content might be boosted to a lot of men, and you might be then getting attention to your account that is unwanted attention. These are all things you need to think about when you have Spark ads. If you're a very liberal person, you have no control when it's a Spark ad. if your content might go to someone who's very conservative and they have a lot of negative things to say about you. When you give the ownership of your content over to a brand, you truly let go of control regarding who gets to see that content, when and where. The brand has the full control from then on out to the end of the usage date. So just buckle up. If it's something that you're going to explore and work on with a brand, be prepared for sometimes your content get exposed to people who maybe don't have the same viewpoint as you, maybe don't have the same outlook at life, and occasionally it's going to go to the wrong side of the interwebs where people might be rude or bullying. Be prepared to put on that thick skin, and hopefully you negotiated a deal that puts you on the right side of things and you still are comfortable even if it hits a few bumpy roads. So if you have any other questions about Spark Ads, how to work with brands who are requesting Spark codes from you, how to broker a deal, please make sure to follow me on Instagram or TikTok and send me a note so that I can help you out, because truly I hate to hear that content creators have been taken advantage of when it comes to Spark Ads. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Lip Service Creator Hotline. If you have a question, please DM it to me and I would be happy to answer it. Chat with you soon.